Meron and today I will be presenting on human cloning. This presentation will go over the issues facing human cloning. Over the years, there have been many issues concerning the topic of cloning, specifically human cloning. In the following slides, I will go over the pros and cons that have been associated with human cloning. Through the research that I have done, I believe the morality and decency of human cloning is unethical due to the high rate of failure, lack of research, and lack of knowledge of future consequences that may result. So what is cloning? Cloning is the creation of a genetically identical copy of an existing or previously existing species. A clone is a genetically identical copy of an organism. This process does occur naturally in nature, but in this case it is created in a lab through the process of asexual reproduction. There are three types of cloning: gene cloning, therapeutic cloning, and reproductive cloning. Gene cloning is essentially recreating DNA technology, where a piece of foreign DNA is inserted into a vector, which can be copied by a host cell. Therapeutic cloning involves the production of a patient-matched stem cell for disease treatment. For reproductive cloning, a cell is taken from the organism that is being cloned. The DNA from this donor cell is then transferred to an egg cell, whose DNA has been removed. The egg cell is then activated and begins dividing as if it was fertilized. When done successfully, an embryo results, and this embryo is then transferred to the uterus of a surrogate female. After this is complete, the surrogate will give birth to the clone, which is a genetic copy of the animal from which the original cell was taken. My position: human cloning. The ethics of human cloning and human genetic engineering involve a lot of sensitive topics. Most people agree that human cloning isn't morally and ethically acceptable. I've decided to take the con side of human cloning due to the following reasons. Human cloning happens through the process of reproductive cloning. During this process, the nucleus of a fertilized organism's egg is replaced by a nucleus of another organism's cell. If the procedure is successful, the fertilized egg will grow into an identical copy of that organism. In human cloning, the process is more complicated due to the complex nature of human DNA. Alongside the complex nature, there are many factors that go against human cloning. One issue is that it is problematic in the cloning process. The technology used for cloning is still in its early stages of development, and therefore it causes a lot of problems. For example, during the process of cloning Dolly the sheep, the first organism to ever be cloned, nearly 300 of her eggs were used, and only 9 of them successfully induced pregnancy. Out of the 9 eggs, only one sole clone was sheep and was cloned and successfully born. This suggests that scientists still have a lot of learning to do before they can clone humans. Another issue is the lack of research and knowledge. When it comes to the manipulation of genes, unforeseen consequences usually occur. These unforeseen consequences could disrupt the natural function of the human DNA, causing health problems. The lack of research also comes with unknown consequences that follow the success. Human cloning procedures would carry unacceptable risks to the clone. The procedure is far from perfected, and many trials were run before Dolly was ever cloned. Taking in how complicated human DNA is, who knows how many trials it will take before it is even successful. Even then, it is unknown what consequences or complications will occur. It is obvious that there are many risks involved. Are the successes that may come from this worth the risk? These successes will grow to be real human beings with lives. Would it be ethical to chemically change the nature of humans, knowing these changes could lead to consequences in the future? Consequences that the chemically engineered humans would have to deal with in the future? Consequences that they did not ask for. Just keep in mind that these complications will not affect the scientist, but instead the human who must live with the consequences for the rest of their lives. Some of the problems these humans may face are problems with chronological age versus biological age. The clone has already gained many years of age by the time it will be born, because it was taken from an adult cell. This adult cell has already been alive for however many years the original cell had lived for. This means the age of the cell will be deducted from the lifespan of the clone, which means the clone will not have as long of a life expectancy as its species. It is unknown how this factor will affect the life expectancy of humans. Human cloning would also lessen the worth of an individual and diminish respect for human life. Human life would be seen as replaceable because it's just another science experiment. If something happened to a person, like if they were killed, another could simply replace them. Clones would also be subject to discrimination based on the fact that they are a clone and did not arise from sexual reproduction. This problem affects not just the clones, but also the human race. The success of clones would create a new divide in the human race, which would result in tensions and a dislike for the people of the other group. Alongside the divide, the amount of money that would be needed to put into the resources needed for human cloning would divert resources from other, more important social and medical needs that the money could go to. The expected benefits from human cloning is limited, and the funding could be better used in other areas that have more and better expected outcomes. Human cloning could also be used for financial gain. Human cloning might be used for commercial interest or for financial gains as well. The embryos could be bought and sold, which would lead to the financial gain of the seller. This could lead to class discrimination on the eggs available. Only the rich could afford the best children. Poor families would have to settle with eggs that are considered damaged or imperfect. Human cloning could also be used on a widespread basis, which would have disastrous effects on the human gene pool by reducing genetic diversity and our ability to adapt to new conditions. This process is physically changing the way humans have grown and evolved for millions of years. So the pro side will argue that human cloning could eliminate defective genes. It is considered as the logical next step in reproductive technology. It is an innovation that could change the world in a positive way. It aids in faster recovery for traumatic injuries. It gives a new meaning to genetic modification. It could eliminate infertility, and it can cure some disorders. But at what cost? Human cloning is said to possibly cure some disorders. It could eliminate defective genes, and it could eliminate infertility. All of these reasons sound good, but the lack of research can't prove any of this. And what about chronological versus biological age? Trying to fix those things could be at risk of a shorter lifespan. The next thing that would be argued are that human cloning is considered as the logical next step in reproductive technology. It is an innovation that can change the world in a positive way, and it gives a new meaning to genetic modification. All these things are not true. Human cloning would actually lessen the worth of individuals and diminish respect for human life. Human life would be seen as replaceable because it's just another science experiment. The success of human clones would create a new divide in the human race, which could result in tensions and a dislike for people of the other group. Human cloning could be used for a financial gain. Human cloning might be used for commercial interests or for financial gains as well. The embryos could be bought and sold, which would lead to the financial gain of the seller. Due to these reasons, the procedure of human cloning is far from perfected, and due to this, it is acceptable to conclude that human cloning is unethical and it would be morally wrong to go forward with these trials due to the unknown consequences that the clones may face. Thank you. And here are my works cited.